The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Well, Sunday morning. With us today is Paul Zuber, and he's the Executive Vice President of the Business Council of the State of New York, representing 3,000 businesses. Well, is it still 3,000 or a lot of them have left, Paul?
Well, you know, John, with all this talk in Albany about taxes and we talk about affordability ad nauseum in Albany, but it seems like every time we talk about affordability, everybody rises up and wants to do a new tax. And I don't know how you can say that you're making New York more affordable when all you want to do is tax New Yorkers. And I think that's a very, very real problem. There have been rallies up here during the budget where, groups have asked for a millionaire's tax. They've asked for an increase in the corporate tax. And I kind of find that funny, particularly in the corporate tax, because what a lot of people don't realize, if you increase the corporate tax in New York State, you're also increasing the taxes on Con Ed, National Grid, all the utilities. What does everybody think happens when you increase corporate taxes on a utility? Do they not realize that all gets pushed onto your utility bill? So you're talking about affordability. You're talking about use this money to help New York City and help New York City taxpayers, and you're proposing a tax which will ultimately get passed on to consumer with higher utility rates. And a lot of legislators, and that's sometimes a problem in Albany.
Well, that's one of the
legislators,
big problems we have in New York. It keeps going up. And I don't know who talked about it, but somebody talked about that maybe we need a few business people up in the state senate or the state assembly or the governors surround herself with better business people, because they don't realize the effects of what's going on overall.
They don't, and then they wonder why you have all these people who want to go to Texas and want to go to Florida because they don't get hit with these taxes, right? And it's a real problem. And the more we lose people, particularly in the financial services industry, the less money there is in terms of tax revenue for New York City. And it doesn't seem like anybody understands this. And so now I guess the new thing in Albany is the governor has decided and the legislator has decided that in order to give New York City the money to close the budget gap, because instead of doing what most mayors would do with a budget gap, they would cut spending. They've done this pie-to-tier tax, which is basically a second home tax on people who have decided to buy property in New York City. They're expensive pieces of property. They don't live in New York City. It's a second home. But again, what we're failing to comprehend is several things with this. So what do we do with the person who has the second home in New York City, but say they have a business in New York City? Say they're, in the financial services sector, or they have a company, and they're creating jobs in New York City, and they're paying property taxes in New York City.
Not everybody understands that. Does that mean if I move my official residence to Florida and I still own a condo in New York, that I'm going to pay double taxation?
Yeah, but you still have your grocery store and you still have your companies in New York City, so you're still creating money. So why should you have to now pay a tax on top of a tax, even though you're contributing to the economy in New York? If you're going to do these things, at least think them out in a way that makes sense. And that just completely doesn't make sense. And then what you end up doing is you end up telling people, well, we don't really want you here. we don't want your business here, and it's becoming a very, very real.
Is that
problem.
why President Trump was really upset about some of those things? I know his family still owns, his sons still own a lot of real estate in New York.
Yeah, well, but you know
they sell condos to a lot of foreign buyers.
Yeah, but you know what the funny part is, John? The New York City, real estate evaluation system is so like, 1980s-ish and so messed up that some of these properties that all these, progressive, let's go get them legislators think are going to get caught up actually will not probably get caught up in the way the tax is currently written in the legislation. So, for example, I think a couple of papers have done an article that President Trump's property at Trump Tower probably wouldn't be included in this. Now, I know that will drive.
So let me understand it.
Crazy.
Let's say I'm a German buyer, and I came in and bought a $10 million condo in Trump Tower.
Mm-hmm.
What does the state want from me besides the $10 million I write to buy the?
They will tax your property if it's over. The latest version that I'm hearing is if it's over $5 million.
So it's a $10 million condo I bought. How much is the tax?
Yeah. So if it's over $5 million assessed value, they're going to put a tax on it. What the final tax would be is unclear, but they will tax that property. Even though you're not using any services in New York, even though you've invested in New York, they are going to tax that property. And it will not matter, like I said before, whether or not you're that German buyer who happens to live in Germany, but also happens to have a company that's hiring people and creating economic development in New York City. It's just going to be a straight tax on you, and it's going to, like you're implying, John, it's going to disincentivize people from purchasing properties in New York City.
But a very important thing is how much are the numbers going to be, because we got to know the truth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's what we're all waiting to see as to what the ultimate numbers will be, and how are they also going to implement this? Because it's going to be very difficult to implement. Because, as you know, a lot of some of those larger condo purchases, they're usually not purchased through an individual; they're purchased through an LLC. You're going to have to find a beneficial LLC owner.
But it's like a real estate tax. The tax goes on top of the ownership. So someday, whether you pay it right then and there or you have to pay it someday, it's a lien on the property.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have to find out exactly what they mean, because they're going to hurt. They're going to hurt New York City, New York State.
Yes, they are, and that's part of the problem here is because there's this energy to kind of go after what people perceived as the millionaire class, right? And so this is their workaround because the governor has refused to do a millionaire's tax. So this is what they feel like they're going to get all those millionaires in New York City by doing this particular tax. I mean, I think you saw that, the mayor, when this was announced, did a video in front of one of the very successful individuals' home, claiming that, he got him. I was going to tax the rich, and I've taxed the rich. But again, to, your point, and I think everybody's point, is whether I don't care, like we can debate like who's leaving the city, but it was very clear when the IRS put out data recently that people are leaving the city. People are leaving New York State, right? They're leaving New York State because there are better tax structures in other states. The weather's better, the environment better,
Paul
the
Zuber,
welcoming is better.
We're out of time, but this is the people want to know the truth, and thank you for getting us there. But when you find out exactly how much it's going to cost, please let us know.
I will.
Thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning, and keep praying for New York.
I will, John.